Let's just get this out of the way. Bronze players are in bronze for basically every reason imaginable, and realistically, you can get out of bronze by improving in any way. I have dozens of friends in bronze, and I always see multiple ways for each of them to improve and take their gameplay up a notch. But is there one overarching technique that bronze players are missing? Is there a single thing that bronze players can get better at that will make the jump to silver easier? There are actually multiple skills that are vital to improving on an individual level in Overwatch, and in this video I'll be going over the most important fundamentals that you need in order to escape the depths of Elo Hell. Just to be clear, this is not a video to insult anyone. This isn't even really a guide. I just thought it'd be good to go over specific things that you can work on to get out of bronze. Even if you're not in bronze, you can hone these skills all the way to Grandmaster. Fun fact, back in Overwatch 1, I once dropped all the way to 1000 Elo on Xbox, which by today's ranks would be Bronze 5, and I have since climbed all the way into Grandmaster 1/Top 500 in multiple roles, so I know what I'm talking about here. The tough but true fact is, if you're in bronze, it's usually because there are multiple aspects of the game you aren't very good at. There's no one reason someone's in bronze, unless maybe you really suck at one particular skill, like aiming, but usually there's a few things that you can work on. If you get really good at even one skill, then that skill can carry you to at least gold, but you're probably wondering what those skills are, which is what I'm about to get into. Mechanical skill is one example of a skill required to play Overwatch, and I've seen people climb multiple ranks just by practicing aim. The top players in the game are very well rounded, but if all you're concerned about is climbing a little, then I recommend focusing on one thing you can improve at. It's up to you as a player to evaluate yourself and determine your weaknesses, and you should look for your greatest weakness and work to lessen it, if not eliminate it and make it one of your strengths. I think that's enough for it at this point, so let's jump into specifics. Skill number 1 is mechanical skill. Mechanical skill is defined as how you physically interact with the game, whether that's a mouse and keyboard or a controller. This is basically how well your fingers do what your brain wants them to. This of course includes aiming, but also things like movement and timing. If you're performing an action that you have the possibility to physically fail at doing, that's mechanical skill. This is one of the most obvious and trackable skills. Many people are able to climb into plat or even higher just with how well they can aim and time their shots, so it's certainly a worthwhile skill to improve to get out of bronze. But how do you improve here? The key is practice. There's no other way around it. If you want to hit your shots, you have to practice hitting your shots. A common misconception around this is that playing the game a lot is good practice. Unfortunately, just playing is not enough to improve. You have to think about what you're doing. Have you ever been in a clutch situation where you've done everything right, you just need to land that last shot, but you miss, and another whiff, because you panicked? In order to aim well, you have to consciously think about where your crosshair is. Make sure you're looking at your crosshair, checking to make sure it's on an enemy, and then clicking. I won't go further into how to improve your aim and other mechanics. The internet already has plenty of guides, but my one big piece of advice here is to take your time and be intentional with each shot. Trust me, it works. Skill number 2 is game sense. Game sense is knowing what to do and when to do it. I believe it to be the most important skill in Overwatch, but unfortunately, it's also the hardest to learn. There are so many situations in a game like Overwatch that there's no easy way to teach someone. This is just one of those things that mostly comes up from playing the game frequently, but like aiming, you can't just play and expect to see the results. One issue that I see in lower ranks is players reacting incorrectly to a given situation and dying or losing the game because of it, but then not learning from that mistake. Even worse, sometimes you make the wrong decision, but it works out okay because the enemy doesn't know what they're doing either, and you never realize you made the wrong choice. There are 2 ways that you can get better at game sense: analyzing your own games and watching good players. Analyzing your own games is super important because it's more personal. You should watch back the replays of your games and look at the mistakes that you made. When you die, try to think, what could I have done in that situation differently, and how would that choice change the outcome? Outside of that, watching good players is a good way to learn what to do and when, because the top players make far less mistakes. You can always find something that they're doing or not doing and adjust your playstyle to match. Popular support player and streamer ML7 has this thing he does called Decision Making Monday, which is super useful to watch because he explains every decision he makes while he plays, so I recommend watching him. Also, it's very important to not only know what to do, but why you should do it, because knowing the base reason for something lets you apply it to more situations. For example, if you're playing Tracer, you shouldn't shoot at a tank. Why? Because the tanks have more health and you won't be able to kill them, and your purpose as a Tracer should be to try to get kills. Once again, I'd like to reiterate that game sense comes with time. You can't just instantly know what to do all the time. You have to think about it a lot to the point where it becomes second nature. Skill number 3 is priorities. What I mean by priorities is your purpose on the battlefield based on who you're playing. For the sake of this video, I'll just stick to the goal of each role. Whether you're playing tank, damage, or support, there are certain things that you should keep in mind specific to that role. Most players in bronze play everyone just about the same way. You see the enemy, you shoot enemy, and maybe heal the team if it's convenient. What you need to realize is that each role is set up to do different things. As a tank, your job is to keep the focus of the enemy and apply constant pressure by shooting so that the enemy has to look at you. If you get kills out of it, great. As a damage, you should try to go for kills, not damage, and you should try not to shoot the enemy tank because you want to get finishing blows on lower health enemies. As a support, you should try to keep your team alive. That doesn't mean you only have to heal, but it means you need to prioritize keeping your team alive over getting kills. Think about your goals for the game whenever you load in and pick a character. While different characters within a role do have different objectives, they're all relatively similar and you need to keep your focus on what's important for you to be doing. This segues nicely into the next skill. Skill number 4 is hero knowledge. Hero knowledge is how well you know the heroes you play and how good you are at them. You might be aware that being flexible and able to play multiple heroes is a good thing in Overwatch, and at higher ranks it certainly is. However, if you're struggling within the metal ranks, especially bronze, you should really focus on getting good with 1 or 2 heroes. Think of it this way. Imagine you play every hero good enough to play them whenever you're on a map that's good for them. Now imagine you load into a game of Lijiang Tower, a map that Symmetra is very good on. Thank goodness you can play Symmetra, so you do. But the other team also has a Symmetra, and they absolutely destroy you. Why? You're both in the same rank, so why is that Symmetra so much better? It's because they practice Symmetra more than other heroes, so when it comes to fighting another Symmetra, they will win. What you need to do is to get a good understanding of 1 hero, maybe 2, so that you can build from those fundamental skills. It makes it much easier to watch guides on your heroes if you only need to watch a few, and your practice will be much more impactful. As sad as it is, you can't learn every hero at the same rate, and if you want to climb in ranked, you need to focus on honing your skills on a limited number of heroes. Skill number 5 is positioning. Positioning is a skill that no one's perfect at, from the depths of Bronze 5 to the peak of Grandmaster 1. Everyone needs better positioning. Positioning is just where you're playing, and it matters way more than most people think. I've seen countless videos of low-rated players losing a fight and thinking, I should have hit more shots or gone for an easier kill, but in reality they died because they were in a bad position. The trickiest part of positioning well is that there is no right spot. There are places that are better to be than others, but if your whole team is in the wrong spot, then that good spot you're in becomes a bad spot since you're all alone. This happens a lot in Bronze, so you have to be able to adapt to the situation. So what is a good position? A good position is somewhere where you can attack the enemies easier than they can attack you. Any position that gives your team an advantage, whether high ground, a choke point, something else, that's where you want to be. However, it's not as objective as I made it sound. You also need to play with your team. For the tank, the best position could be next to a corner that you can fall behind to avoid incoming damage. For a damage hero, it could be right behind your tank as a Reaper, or far away on some high ground for a sniper. The main thing to think about here is where are you the safest while still providing the most value to your team. Like most of the skills I've mentioned, there are plenty of positioning guides on YouTube that you can find. So, what should you take away from this video? While you should practice all of these skills to become a better player, all it takes is focusing on 1 to take your game to the next level. Try to think about which of these areas you're weakest in, because that means that you can improve the most in it. Watch your game replays and see what you can do better, and track your progress. You can check your accuracy after every game to see if your aim's getting better, or try to lower your deaths in each match because of better positioning. Regardless of what you choose to focus on, improving in any of these skills will make you play better and help you be more confident in your gameplay. I hope you guys found this video helpful even if you aren't in Bronze, and I'll see you in the next video.